everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Joni Young. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like this video. Today I'm going to be showing you step by step how to paint this giant jellyfish with lots of pretty colors. We'll be working on a 20 by 24 black primed canvas. I'll be listing the colors below in the description box. I've got a small Filbert brush that I'm going to be working with first. We've got turquoise, phthalo blue, titanium white, and there'll be a few more that we're going to be adding later on. So first I'm going to take some water, turquoise, and phthalo blue with a little bit of my titanium white. I'm going to blend the three colors up together, and I'm going to start the basic shape and outline, which kind of looks like the top of a mushroom. So it's really easy. You're just going to make it kind of soft and rounded on the top, a little bit narrower than the rest, and then it's going to come out wide and then pull back in towards the center. I'm going to scumble in the leftover paint in my brush, giving it a bit of color, and then from here we're going to work our way up, adding more color. So I've got turquoise with a little bit of white right now. I'm going to define the shape and some of these lines and highlights a little bit more. So jellyfish have quite a transparency to them, and so working on this black canvas is such an easy and great way to achieve that, and the color shows up quite nice on a black canvas. I've been having a lot of fun painting animals and birds and all sorts of things on black canvases lately, and I love your guys' response. You guys are really enjoying these videos too, and thanks so much for sharing and tagging me in all of your interpretations on Instagram. I love seeing them, guys. So I'm still sticking with my turquoise and my white right here. I'm not using the phthalo blue anymore, and I'm just going to soften the color up, beginning with a turquoise, adding quite a bit in here, as you could see how much my brush was loaded up. So just pushing softly, pulling and blending that paint around, and then it goes around, and then it's going to come down slightly on an angle and then out where all the little lines and squiggly jellyfish stingers are going to come down. Now this was such a fun painting to work on, and I can't wait for you guys to give this one a try. I encourage you to paint along with me, and if you need to, you can stop this video, pause it at any time, and you can slow it down as well. If you're watching this on your laptop, computer, then you have that option. It's a little bit different on if you're watching it on a phone. So I'm just going to keep adding my color in here. Sometimes I'm using thinner amounts of paint, and then in some areas you can see obviously I'm using thicker amounts of paint, so I want it to be a little bit see-through in some areas and thicker in others. This will give us that see-through transparency, gives you that sort of that jelly-like texture that they have. Now I'm coming in with my phthalo blue and more of my turquoise. I'm going to get sort of a mid-tone here, so it's not super dark, and it kind of blends in nicely with that turquoise. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling more of that turquoise and phthalo down towards the bottom, and then I'm going to dab little circles here and little dots and pull across the bottom so we have that color down there as well. And I'm going to switch over to my small flat brush. I'm going to start blending a little bit more of my white right down here, making it really, really bright, tapping in for my brightest highlights to make this jellyfish look like it's glowing and sort of shiny at the same time. And what I'm going to do is take more of my white and really brighten it up using some of my neon yellow as well. So these two colors mixed together make a beautiful bright lemon chiffon kind of a color, And I'm going to continue with my highlights here, nice and bright, thick amount of paints. Remember, as that acrylic paint dries, it will become a little bit duller and a little bit darker. It does help if you have primed your canvas with gesso. In this case I have, so my colors should hold. And if yours is not, and have a look at it the next day once all that paint is dried, and just go back to it with another layer of highlights and you should be good. But yeah, acrylic gesso will really help the longevity of the color of your paints really hold up and stand out for a long time. What it does is it creates a barrier in between the paint and the canvas so that the paint can't soak into the canvas and kind of just disappear. So see how I'm softening the white and the yellow into that turquoise and blue very carefully to create more of a round shape, making it look rounded, and then I'm going to scumble it and wiggle around, making all these little frills for the part of the jellyfish that comes down its body and all the little stingers or tentacles. I'm not sure what they're called, but you guys know what I mean. Still using the neon yellow and the white, leaving some of it kind of see-through and some of it's going to be thicker and more solid so you can't see through it. But I'm just kind of shaking my brush quickly, creating all these little folds. And you can just achieve it so quickly by doing that with your brush. And if you're not sure about this technique, then just try and practice beforehand. And I've got one of my fluffy straight end mop brush, blending brush, and it's dry. And I'm just taking a little bit more of my white and my yellow, and I'm going to barely touch that canvas, dust small little circles, and then short little pulls and flicks and little scoops here where we have all those frills. I like to call them frills because that's what they look, very frilly to me. And I'm going to continue down the bottom, building up all those layers one at a time, and then gradually we'll add more and more color. Now right here, right underneath, I'm going to have a tiny bit of paint on my brush, and I'm going to lightly line it up and pull just so softly. And it creates almost like a light little veil. And it almost looks like a glow too. It's just a really pretty effect with any soft blending brush or mop brush that you have. I don't know what the bristles are on this specific brush, but they're extra soft. I love this brush. I'm going to be getting more of them, in fact. And I'll try to add a link when I find, it was one of my patrons sent me a bunch of paintbrushes as a gift, so I don't know where she got this one, and I think it says the make on the handle, so I'll have to look for it and purchase some later, and if I can find a link for you guys, then I'll share it. Just continuing here, building up more of the body. Now I've got both of my blues and a bit of turquoise, so I've got ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, and turquoise. And you know what, I'm just going to start adding a little bit of color to the background. I want this painting to feel really moody, and what better colors to use to create a real moody atmosphere. And of course it's in the ocean, so we want to have these deep ocean blues. But I'm not going to paint the entire background that color. I really want to have some black there as well to create some more depth and really make this jellyfish pop out. I'm going to add a light little veil of color, the leftover blue and turquoise in my brush. And I'm going to lighten this up a little bit more because I know it's going to dry darker and it's probably going to look black once it dries. So what I've got to do is add a little bit of turquoise to balance that out. The turquoise has some white in it, right? And that way it's going to really show up. Now I'm going to be using a little bit of yellow ochre and my small filbert brush. So I'll be taking yellow ochre, neon yellow, a little bit of blue to tone that, just a little bit of phthalo. And I'm going to start adding the pattern right at the bottom here, so just little blobs, or you can make ovals or circles, but as they get towards either end, the left and the right, they're going to be more of a long skinny oval and pull around almost like the shape of a crescent moon, okay, so that it looks like it's three-dimensional. That's how you'll get that look. And I'm going to add a few here in the ruffles, just wiggle and squiggle my brush around. Now I'm going to take some of my white neon yellow and my neon pink. We're going to start having some more fun with color now. I'm just going to wiggle, push and tap, and then flick around. Tight little wiggles like that and scoops will make it look really ruffly and very highlighted on the ends of those. Now I've got a clean brush with more neon yellow and white, no water at all. So I've got quite a bit there. And I'm going to need more white than yellow. That way it's going to stay nice and bright. There's a few little bright highlights here, so I'm just going to tap in where I want to have those and then come back and soften them if I need to, which I probably will right on the very top. It's not soft enough, so I'm going to have to blend that out. And then I'll continue adding down here on these little ruffles. Okay, so I'm going to gently smooth that out and softly tap and pull, barely touching the canvas. The turquoise paint and the blue paint is still wet underneath, so I keep picking that up every time I go over with the paint. And there's nothing wrong with that, but if it bothers you guys and if you're finding it hard to add your highlight over top of that, then you can just take a hairdryer, dry it off, or just wait and come back to it after. So as you can see, I'm going around either end, pulling and then lightly flicking off to start the little squiggly stingers. I'm going to soften around these highlights in and around where I added that yellow ochre and phthalo blue. And you guys, you can use your imagination and have fun with this. I looked at so many different photos and images of jellyfish, and I just ended up doing my own thing and adding my favorite colors later on at the bottom. And here I'm adding some more white with a bit of yellow in there again. Yeah, you can create any pattern you want and just really have fun with it. Okay, after softening that a bit with my white and yellow, I washed my brush off and I'm switching over to my long liner brush, picking up quite a bit of turquoise. I'm going to go lightly around, again barely touching the canvas, making it look really delicate, and pulling and wiggling as I pull, and then sort of just flicking off down at the bottom. So they're really long. You can go all the way down and past the canvas if you want. And then you can make some that are going to be shorter, and those shorter ones are going to be on either side on the very end on the left and the right. And you can add as many as you want. You can change the colors up too if you want. They don't have to be all turquoise. Now the ones that are right going over top of the brightest white and yellow in the center, they won't show up right? Because it's so bright behind there, you're going to need to add a little bit of blue to your turquoise to really make those stand out. They're going to be a little bit more in silhouette there. But the ones on the outer side will show up really, really well, obviously, with that black underneath. So first I'm just using turquoise, and then you'll see me later on come in with a little bit of blue. Actually right here I'm just pulling and wiggling some of that blue, and see right away, instantly, it shows up much better. And it looks more real that way, right? It makes sense because it's so bright back there that it would make those lines in the front look darker. And now we're going to pull off and give this a little bit of flow and feeling like it's moving around in the water. Back to my little Filbert brush and some pink, so just titanium white and neon pink. If you don't have neon colors, that's okay, guys. Just use the brightest pink that you have, brightest yellow that you have. And then obviously just add white to it and it'll look pretty. You can use any colors that you want for this. These are just a few of my favorite ones. So again, I'm coming in and I'm building up the layers and the color. I thought here I would just dab a little bit of pink to see how that looked. So I'm just taking some ideas from basic ideas of what a jellyfish looks like from many different reference photos, and then I'm playing up and turning it into my style and kind of like what I like to do in my paintings, play up on color. Though there are jellyfish that are pretty colorful. We saw one on the island here. We live on the coast, and I saw one really, the biggest jellyfish I've ever seen. I can't remember what they're called, but it had a lot of blue and a lot of red and orange and yellow. It was really, really pretty. I've only seen them one time, those big ones. It was pretty special. Most of the other ones that I see are the small see-through white ones, really, really small, and they have almost like this little flower design pattern on the top of them. So I'm going to keep building up here with the color, turquoise, and then blue. I'll be adding some magenta later on as well. Now I do have a hummingbird painting coming up very soon, so stay tuned for that, you guys. It's important that you tap the bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. I know people that don't tap the bell are missing out on my videos and they're wondering why they haven't seen them. So you can't trust YouTube to put my videos out there in your news feed or whatever. You have to tap that bell, otherwise you might miss out. Okay, so notice how on the very ends of these little frills, that I like to call them, I'm adding the brightest colors. So that's going to give that 3D look. It's going to make them stand out and look nice and bright and colorful on the outside. And then as they go in, you'll get that layered look because you're going to get that shadow in there where it's darker. So I'm just pulling with my fan brush, gently pulling so I get it going partially up those little ruffly folds, and then I'm going to come in with just straight phthalo blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of that as well. Okay, so I'm coming back up here on the top of the jellyfish, adding more turquoise. I've got mostly a dry brush, no water, just adding and building up another layer to really make that turquoise stand out. And I'm going to take the full width of my fan brush and barely touch the canvas and just pull and wiggle for some faint little lines in there. Still being able to see the black through. I've now got a soft, dry mop brush. The bristles on this one are really, really nice. Very soft. Tapping into my titanium white and a little bit of neon yellow, I'm going to create soft little circles, barely touching the canvas. If I push too hard, it's not going to look soft, and what's going to happen is I'm going to pull the underneath layers of paint right off, and you're not even going to see this highlight. It's just going to disappear. So you've got to be really, really, really gentle. And again, like I said, if you're having any troubles adding your layers, just go ahead and dry your painting off, and then you won't have that. You won't run into that problem. I don't like to dry mine off because I like all the other layers of colors and tones and shades that you get. So I'm building up the background color now, adding a little bit of white to my blues, and just creating soft circles and giving this a very kind of powdery, airbrushed look. So no water, just paint only. And I'm mixing up my pink, blue to make this color. Okay, that's light blue violet. So if you take your ultramarine blue with white and some pink, and in this case I'm using neon pink, and that's how you make that color. Even just ultramarine blue and white will make that color, but I wanted to have a little bit of pink to it just to change it up a bit. So it's going to dry a little bit darker, but I'm going to come in here with more of my phthalo and my ultramarine blue just to make it look like it's going dark to light, darker from the center, and then lighter towards the outside part of the canvas. I'm coming over and smoothing out this line again, the shape, adding some more highlight on the top here, on the top left, with yellow and white again. I'm going to build up some more highlights here by using my liner brush, yellow and white, just tapping and dabbing little dots closely together. I'm going to have a larger amount in the very center that I'll add later. And then I'm coming in with more of my yellow ochre. I'm going to do another layer of this. It needs to be darker. So I'm just kind of outlining and filling in a little bit, leaving little hints of those other colors that I added there before, like a bit of that bubblegum pink and blue. Still using my liner brush, I'm going to flick and wiggle some yellow ochre, some neon pink mixed with a yellow ochre. That makes a really nice color. And just build up little ruffles and little lines. Clean brush, back to my white. I'm going to create some more layers in here and highlights, really making this look 3D. And if you don't have a long liner brush, you can use any small tipped, fine tipped brush, a short liner brush. Even if you don't have one, you can use the corner of a flat brush, or a round brush even can work. Okay, I'm going to come in with some more turquoise with a bit of white, so mixing turquoise and white together. And I'm going to pull and wiggle and flick. Pull, wiggle, and flick. And I'm going to add a few that kind of go off and turn towards the right, giving the feeling of movement with this jellyfish. And I'm going to correct that little lump that I accidentally made on the far right. I'm going to go in a little bit and scumble some of this paint off. You'll see in just a moment. So right here, just with a small filbert brush, I'm just pushing, wiggling, and taking some of that paint off. I'm going to wipe it off, the excess paint off on a towel nearby. And then I'm going to come around and do the same on this side, getting rid of that little lump there. There, that looks better. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more shadow in here, and I'm actually taking my phthalo blue right now, no water, and I'm just going to very carefully sneak some in between some of these little lines, and just making these yellow ochre little blobs, circles, pattern, whatever, just stand out a little bit more down at the base. And then there's going to be a very, very faint little line at the top. It goes off to the right, one down towards the middle, and then one down towards the left. Now I've got my neon pink again with my white. More pink this time than white. And I'm going to continue building up some fun colors down here. Okay, I'm going to actually even add a little bit of that beautiful pink right up here on the top, just to add a little bit of color. And if it's too much, I'll just soften, but you can still see there's a hint of it there, and it's very subtle. I'm going to add a little bit of that pink again, darker pink this time, right? Less white than last time. Just a little thin layer over top of the yellow ochre. And I'm going to add with a clean liner brush, get more of my turquoise and white. And now down here, where it's darker in those ruffles, they'll show up better with a light turquoise and white. But at the top, again, I used that blue, right, over top of where it's really, really bright. I'm going to highlight a few of these. That's all I'm doing here, is very lightly, no pressure at all, very, very little pressure. Just white and yellow and a little bit of turquoise. Pull and smooth these lines out just to find that shape. Okay, so back to adding a little bit of pink here, building up a few more of the ruffles and little layers. That neon pink again with some white. You know, it'll look really pretty if you mix it with a bit of the phthalo blue or the ultramarine blue. And here I'm going to come in with another layer of highlight. So see how it's a thicker area, it's a bigger kind of a blob on the center. And then off to the left and right, we're going to have smaller dots. And then I'm coming underneath, and I'm going to just wiggle carefully with my little liner brush, build up more highlights. So it's something that takes patience and a lot of layers, but it is super easy at the same time. It's just going to take a little bit of your time. So don't give up. Don't quit halfway through. You guys can do this, okay? If you have any questions, feel free to connect with me on Patreon. For $5 a month, I will take your questions, offer advice, give you one-on-one direction with whatever you're having trouble with in your paintings. Okay, I'm going to soften in a little bit more of my white in here. It's blending in with the turquoise, and I want that to happen. I want all these different light tones of turquoise and yellow with a white, just all those soft colors blending together, just to give us that really shimmery and soft jellyfish look. Shiny and kind of see-through. They're just so beautiful. There's just something so soothing about jellyfish. I could just watch them forever. Okay, I'm going to build up more turquoise in here. And I've got no water at all on my brush, just straight turquoise. Now I'm going to add magenta and neon pink with no white at all. And if you don't have magenta, it's very close to quinacridone violet, so you can use that. You can use any purple, pink that you want. I don't know about red. You could try red, I guess, and see how it looks. It might look nice over the blue. Then you get a sort of a purple tone. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit more turquoise and phthalo blue down here to balance out. Up and flick softly just to make it kind of start to blend in, and then wiggle out some more color over here, whatever color of your choice. And I've got my small little liner brush that I use for signing my paintings, so I'm going to sign it. Sorry, my head's getting in the way of the camera, guys. And this painting is all done. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Oh, I thought it was all done. I guess I decided to add a little bit more. I tend to do this with my paintings. I'll sign it thinking it's done, and then just one more thing. So as I finish this painting, and all I'm doing is adding a few more little lines of color and highlights and little ripples and ruffles here. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope I inspired you somehow today and that you wanted to paint along with me. I'll see you next time really soon in another video. Have a wonderful day, stay happy, safe, and creative. Bye everybody.